and we're back. Here's part 2 of us forge welding this wrought iron hammer with steel faces welded in. Actually, I don't know, it's part 4 now, ain't it?
Technically, yeah.
Technically, it's part 4. Hopefully we are back, live's good, hopefully everybody's back in the shot. I went ahead and finished forging down the bit and preparing it. Now I'm going to cut barbs into it. I'm going to do that at the Hardy tool on the anvil. I'm going to cut little barbs or little serrations into the narrowest portion of the wedge. So this way it will help grip the wrought iron a little bit better when we close down the mouth of the bird's mouth on it from the wrought iron. Hopefully that makes sense. Good. Everybody still joining us?
I'm refreshing the page, so I will let you know here in a moment.
All right. Hopefully people are still around and still enjoying our content.
All right. I'm not sure. Showing we're live. Saying 0 watching currently, though.
All right, folks. Let us know if you're here.
All right. It says 7 watching.
Okay. Jessica, go to the anvil.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
So we're just going to cut these little teeth in here. Not a real big deal. You're just trying to make some little barbs, push up some little barbs there. Just gives it a little more surface area for it to grab onto those wood fibers. Just like so. Hopefully we can see that. You
Yep.
see that good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's like a little foot.
Yep. Is everybody commenting and whatnot?
Let's see. We got Frank Strock that says still here.
Good, Frank. Thank you for being here, buddy. So now we're going to go ahead and flux this just a fuzz. And just let that sit on there like so. There we go. And we'll set this off to the side of the fire while we bring the wrought iron up to a, or we'll just set it right here on the anvil more or less. Set it there. So it's out of the way. And we will bring the wrought iron hammer now up to a forging temp so we can close it down on that bit. Good?
All right. Roger Turley says a cutout with the answer to why wrought iron.
Okay, yes, why wrought iron? I answered that earlier on in the stream. The reason why I'm using wrought iron is because it was a traditional way of making hammers. Since iron was plentiful, but high carbon steel or tool steel was scarce back in the day. So at least that's what the history books teach us, and so that's generally accepted as the historical method of forging hammers, if you will. Now there is some historical evidence that very early on, people didn't even worry about that. They had wrought iron hammers that were all wrought iron, and they hammered upon hot wrought iron with them. And so there's evidence, there's early examples and evidence of that was widely used in undeveloped countries for a long time before they found that they could do the same, that they could have tools that lasted longer with high carbon steel. So. I like it. It's more historical, and I think it forges wonderfully, beautifully to make hammers. All right, so what's going on?
Yeah. Let's see. Mike G still here. Brett 354 guys like the video. But I am receiving a red bar from YouTube that's saying that the live stream health is poor because there's a video output is low.
Video output is low.
Yes.
Stream health is poor. So.
You guys will have to let me know if this is really...
Okay, so we may lose you again. If we do lose you again, we'll continue this saga next week when we've got our stuff a little bit better. We did stream for 2 hours tonight, so that's pretty good. That may be our limit. It may be our limit. So if we cut out on you, we greatly appreciate you being here. Remember, check out our Monday evening live stream where we talk about your business and try to help you with your business. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And check out next Friday night live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe. And remember, we also have blacksmith plan bundles and all sorts of that goody stuff over at blacksmithpdfs.com. if you're interested in supporting the channel. That's how we do a lot of what we do, and it's giving me more and more time. People who are using that as a resource to help themselves out with the business, like the blacksmith cheat sheet and stuff, that is helping me be able to do more and more instructing, which I have a heart for, and allows me to get better and better at the craft. So thank you all so much for that, those that have been supporting us in that way. Okay, good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and set this bit into the wrought iron. Now this is where it'll get a little interesting. So this is a little tricky. The wrought iron's at a fairly high temp, and we need to set that bit in there. Are we at the anvil, Jess?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And I need to hammer this down in there just ever so slightly. And you hold that in there, and hopefully get that bit to stick, and get that wrought iron to bite down. There you go. So now it's got that piece sandwiched and gripped. Can they see it?
Yes.
So our first heat, we'll go ahead and put just a fuzz bit of flux on there, just between that joint, just to try to help get any of the excess scale on there to get capillary action and out of that joint. But when we come out, we're going to set this straight up like this, and we're going to forge weld straight down. We're going to drive this straight down in for the first weld, and then the second weld will come out and we'll mend the lips into it. So that's how we'll do that. So let's get this back in the fire, bring it up to a full welding heat.
All right.
Again, make sure that that bit is pointed up. You don't want it pointed down in the fire.
Brian Neely says, is wrought iron any lighter than mild steel or high carbon steel?
In my opinion, wrought iron is denser. Because it has more impurities in it, and that slag and silica and stuff, it has, I believe it has a little more density to it. Now, I would Google that and actually find out from a metallurgist or something of that nature, but this hammer feels a lot heavier than what it is. It's only 1 3/4 pounds, but it hits like a 3-pound hammer. So it's my assumption that because it's a softer material, it feels a little denser to me.
Paul Ellis, thank you for the $10 super chat.
Thank you, Paul Ellis. Greatly appreciate you. Everybody give Paul Ellis a big hand clap there. I didn't give Tim at Big Dog Forge a big hand clap earlier. My mind was else places. Trying to get this welded up. Make sure you give everybody who's donated, Graham Pepper, Paul Ellis, Tim at Big Dog Forge. Make sure you just say their name and give them a good hand clap in the comment section. Say thank you.
He said, was trying to do it when it dropped out earlier.
Well, shots be the darn. I'm glad we brought the stream back.
Although it still says low health on it, it says, Brett 354 says works fine so far.
Okay.
And then Paul Ellis said there's some chalk there. So I guess it's working for now.
Okay, well I'm going to try to get this to weld up before it decides it doesn't want to work anymore. So this way we can conclude this stream. Alright, we're almost to a welding heat. It doesn't take long. Got to keep it insulated. The trick to this is you cannot rush it usually. So this is kind of bad practice here. I'm trying to rush along. You want to take your time with welding heats. You don't want to get too much oxygen on the thing. You want to bring it up to heat where it has good soak time to be able to get to a full welding heat throughout the whole core of the piece, then bring it out. You'll have really great success with it. Too many people try to get it hot and weld it now. That's bad. Don't do that. If you try to get it really hot and weld it now, you're going to over-oxygenate it and none of your welds are going to stick. They're going to pop back apart. Okay. I think I'm probably pretty close to welding heat here. Yeah, I'm pretty close to it. I'm going to go ahead and give it a go. go to the anvil, Jess.
All right.
You good?
Yep.
All right, we're going to stand her straight up. Close those lips down. There we go. I'm going to spend a lot of time with it out here. Just get a little flux on the lips. We're going to put it back in the fire. Bring it back up to welding heat.
That's speedy.
Yep. Time is of the essence on a weld. So I'll bring this back right back up to welding heat and we'll continue at it.
Hello, Darren. Glad to have you stop in. Also want to let you know that we did ship out your dinner bell today, so you should receive that next week.
So Darren at Energy Management, that's what his screen name stands for. What was it, 2 live streams 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when we had a live stream but it cut out.
Yep,
he had donated a $100 super chat, and we thank you once again for that, and we did get that dinner triangle that we gave to you sent out in the mail, huh? That was great. Forward to it. Okay, this is up to a good heat again.
All right.
So we're going to go back to the anvil, Jess.
Okay.
Hopefully everybody can see this fine. Good?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Paul Ellis says, what is the approximate temperature of a good welding heat?
It varies per material that you're working with. Wrought iron likes to be up in the 26 to 2900 degrees. Mild steel likes to be right around the 1900s, high 1900s to low 2000s, like say like 1980 degrees to roughly about 2200 degrees for wrought iron, for mild steel. Most high carbon tool steels can take a little more heat. They like to be around, they like to stay around in the 1900s to 2000 degrees for that, depending on what they are. The higher the carbon content, the lower that number is. So at 1045, you can push it up there around the 2400 degrees for a welding temp, full welding temp. So I want to do a video on this, and I'm going to do a video on this. A really in-depth thing. I'll do a really in-depth series, or a semi-in-depth as I can get on YouTube about it. But most people picture welding temp as a ceiling. Like once you reach that ceiling, you're there. But that's not how welding temp works. There's a low weld temp, there's a low weld temp, there's a high weld temp, there's a medium weld temp, and there's everything in between. And so it's more of like an arc or a curve, if you will, welding heat is. So it is not so much a line in the sand as it is an arc. So as long as you hit it somewhere on the high end of that arc, you're good for the material. And every material has a different arc to it. And where those two intersect, where those two arcs intersect, that's where you want to weld, or you'll have the best fusion of those two materials.
Let's see here. I did want to mention Darren's comment. He said, anytime, and thank you guys, and give us a $50 super chat.
Thank you so much, Darren. You are awesome. Everybody give him a round of applause if you haven't already.
Yeah, they beat us to it.
Yeah, we really greatly appreciate you. And thank you so much for supporting these streams and supporting the channel. You allow me to be able to focus more and more on helping other blacksmiths out, and I greatly appreciate that. That's a huge thing.
The Good of the Land says, finally made it to live. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. You missed the cutout earlier, so you're just in time for the second half, round 2.
Manga 12 says, you're a pro and stronger than most of us that don't do this every day.
I don't know if I'm stronger. I got more endurance. And, you know, you have to build up to it. So if you do it every day, it's not so bad. If I step away from it for a few weeks and come back, it's, woo! Yeah, I get my workout cut in for me. So All right, we're going to go to the anvil, honey, and
Right.
finish welding in the lips here, or weld them in further. There we go. So that was at like what a low welding heat would be, or would be considered. And I'm just dressing out the wrought iron to get it a little closer. Dress the lips down. Clean up the tail end of this a little bit. So I'm going to get into something else here that this is what a lot of people don't think about. But you have had high carbon steel at this point right now at a very high welding temperature for a lot of heat, okay? Before you ever, and I do mean ever, go into heat treating on this, you need to do this mythological thing. Debate can go a bunch of different ways on it, but you need to do this little mythological thing that's called packing the steel. You need to pack the grain structure back. What that means is you need to actually, more technical terms, you need to try to lightly tap and refine this grain structure because this 1095 has had to spend so much time at a super high heat, it is now very, it has a very loose grain structure. It has a very coarse grain structure. If you go into heat treating it right now at this point in time, hardening and tempering it, you're going to crack it every time. Mark my words, you will crack somewhere. It'll chip off or do something later down on the line. So you'll see me come in here, and it's not just because I like fiddling around with the material, but I'll be hammering on it at a cooler heat and working it all the way down into the black temperature, like this. What that is doing is that is breaking up that big coarse grain structure and getting it more and more refined and tighter together. That's what you want before you go back and go and do all your heat treating and stuff with it. Anybody got any questions on that?
We have one on a slightly different topic from
Okay,
Dustin
go ahead.
Nixon.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Says, I got a good question. I have a bunch of cold rolled steel pins that I am thinking about making into knives. Can it be hardened, and what would be the best medium to harden it in?
So, cold rolled is usually like a 1018, so it's pretty low down there on the carbon content. Some would say not hardenable at all. So, with that being said, your best bet would be to make a thick knife-like form and put some higher carbon steel in that form and then forge out a blade out of it. Kind of like a San Mai type deal. That would be a better bet if you're going to make knives out of like a cold rolled steel. If you just want to try it, I've had mixed success with the super quench stuff. I've done some videos on that and kind of some testing, but not enough to where I could recommend it to be the beat-all method, if you will. So that's what I would recommend for that. If you're going to try to quench it or bring it up to a critical and quench it and just test it, I would suggest water because it's the harshest medium and you don't have a whole lot of carbon to play with. So the lower the carbon content, generally, the harder the quench medium you need to quench in. The higher the carbon content, the slower quenching of the medium you need to quench in. Again, those are generalities. So, with that being said, look up, Google it, Google a data sheet on that and what its specific characteristics are. Hope that makes sense.
Manga 12 said, what is the heaviest hammer you swing and or like to use, Roy?
1 3/4 pounds. That's my heaviest hammer I like to use. The heaviest hammer I use for general forge work is this 3-pound hammer. This has been with me for the last 10 years of my life. It's what I started forging with. The Harbor Freight 3-pound hammer, cross peen. It even says made in China on the bottom of it. I consider this like a heavy hammer. I mean, I've got to be really welding on some bigger steel. And I'm talking stuff this big, you know, 1.25 inch thick steel in order for me to break out this thing. Otherwise, it's a no-go for me. I use the 1 3/4 pound. I can swing it just as hard and fast and just as heavy on it as somebody swinging a 6-pound hammer. I'm more than willing to take and put my metal where my mouth is on that one. So, not ashamed of my steel moving abilities at the forge with my lightweight hammer. When I go to doing sledge work, I prefer an 8-pound sledge. I can do 12-pound and heavier. I just don't like working with that heavy of stuff. There's no shame in taking a second heat on something. As you can tell, I've taken like 27 heats tonight to get to the point that I'm at. But again, we're having a good time. The point is to get the job well done, not get it done fast.
Darren had also said, Roy and Jessica, you are worth every penny. You are one of my favorite instructor teams to learn from, and by the way, the blacksmith cheat sheet is excellent.
Awesome.
Glad to hear that.
We are glad to hear that.
So our stream call finally cleared up. It says we're good now, so
Good.
green.
Good. Okay, so now all I'm doing, I've got the lips all welded in, but basically what I'm doing is what I call vanity welding. I'm just trying to dress out the scarf area to where you don't see it as much. So that's just a vanity weld. I'm just going to be tapping around on it. There's not a, you know, again, it's not actually welding it any heavier now at this point. The thing's fully stuck. It won't pop out of there in use. It's fully welded in and mended. Now I'm just where that transition was, that little steep transition shelf, I'm working that into the piece with vanity welds. So let's go over the anvil, Jess, and I'll do some more vanity welding here.
All right.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. Now those are completely dressed out. And I got about the right shape peen that I was wanting.
That's so good. Nice taper to it, doesn't it?
Huh?
So it does have a nice taper to it, doesn't it?
It does. Alright, so I'll brush real quick so you guys can see. If this was on my own time, I would fiddle with it a lot more. But since this is on your guys' time and I value you so much, I'm not going to fiddle with it that much. But I just want to show you guys the weld fully welded in. And we're going to take a look at it and make sure Roy's not running his mouth and not have a good weld. We want this to cool again at the same rate, right? There we go. Don't see any welds there, do you?
No.
Let me see if I can zoom you guys in any further. Not afraid to show her off. So no welds on the face. No welds on the peen. Scarves are completely blended in. There's one area right here. Bring out Mr. Thing Adams here.
This looks like a little nick.
There's like a little nick where that area there just didn't clean in, but that's okay. By the time we're done forging on this and stuff, and I gotta file that off anyhow, that's not a big deal. Good to go.
Cool.
Hey, you like it?
I like it.
Like it?
Coming
Good.
along nicely.
Okay. What's everybody think?
John McCann says, wow, looks great. And we also had a comment I wanted to read to you from the Good of the Land. And they said, Your channel is a go-to for all of us new blacksmiths at the mill. We are thankful for your knowledge. I would love to drive down and collaborate if you're within a day's drive. What state are you in?
We are in the state of Ohio, in the Dayton, Ohio area, in a little town called New Lebanon. Let me pick this up here.
Yeah, a little farming town.
Yep, little farming town. So now I'm going to pick a side that's going to make the top. And I think I'm going to pick this side to be the top. And now I'll take and come back in, and I'll come in with a fuller, and I will fuller in the swoop of this here, the Scandinavian style. I'm going to fuller in that little swoop there. Mainly because I don't have a radius, I don't have a proper radius block for the anvil that I can take and forge in a nice gentle swoop. So therefore I'm going to forge it in with a fuller instead. A fuller is a little more aggressive, so I'll go a little lighter with it, but I want to take and put that fuller in there to just give it that little peak in the center.
Let's see here. Oh, Manga 12 had a question. How can you tell a hardness from a spark?
How can you tell a hardness from a spark?
Or a spark test?
So a spark test won't tell you hardness. It won't indicate hardness to you. Not from my knowledge, if you will. Somebody else may disagree with that. Somebody might know better. Go ahead and drop it in the comments section of this video. But from what my understanding is, or my knowledge of it, is spark testing stuff is to tell if it has carbon in it, or has a higher carbon than a known quality steel. So that means if there's more sparks than a steel that you have a known quality for. So say you had a piece of 1018 and you touched it to a grinder and it put off a certain type of sparks. And then you had a piece of 1045 and you touched it, but you didn't know it was 1045, but you figured it was harder or that it was a higher carbon steel, you would touch it, and the 1045 would throw off a lot more cracklers, a lot more of that sizzly type sparks than what the 1018 would. And that's how you would differentiate between the two of those. So there are what they call spark testers that you can get, where you can just touch it. It's like a little feeler gauge, and you just touch it to the stone, and it'll shower off some sparks. But that doesn't indicate hardness, once again. If you want to test hardness, they have hardness testers. And basically, they come in a little keyring set, and I think they're like 800 bucks. They're super expensive, and they're like a little scratch test. You scratch, and if it's 50 Rockwell, that tip is hardened by the factory at 50 Rockwell. And so if you scratch it, and it scratches the material, it's lower in hardness than 50 Rockwell.
He ended up saying a little more. He said it was a chisel he was working with. I tried to harden the chisel, but it seemed not to have hardened in the water much. It grinds very easy. It doesn't seem to skate, as you say, on a bench grinder, and I thought it would throw lots of sparks.
Okay, what did you make the chisel out of? Or was this a found chisel? That's the question.
Corey Shire, yep, we are back. Yeah, we had to restart the live stream. I found the culprit. It was a background process was over killing my CPU there, so I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Day Springs Metalworks is using a file better to gauge how hard a steel is. Oh, as far as skating.
As far as skating, it will indicate that you've gotten it hard. It will not indicate how hard it is unless you know the hardness of the file.
And Manga 12 said it was found scrap.
It was found scrap. I would bring it up to like a really high temperature and quench it in water and see if it'll skate. If it doesn't formulate, if it does not form that like grayish, whitish martensite structure on the outside when you quench high carbon steels, if it doesn't form that when you quench it and it's just like regular black forging scale that it forms, then it's not ever going to get hard on you. It has to have that martensite in order to take and harden up. if you're going to do punches and chisels, I would recommend sticking with coil spring for found materials. I've tried, I thought I had some stuff. I had got one batch once of octagon stock at the scrapyard, or I guess it was hex stock, and not octagon, but hex stock. And I thought I made my wife some ladles out of it, and it couldn't, a drill bit couldn't touch it. Turns out I went down to the scrapyard, had it mic'd, and it was H13. So I went back down and I bought a boatload of bigs, hex stock, and all sorts of other things, thinking that it was all H13. Well, it actually turned out to be leaded material for making machining bolts out of. It actually had a percentage of lead in it, and it was not hardenable at all, dead soft. I mean, I made countless punches and chisels and slitters and drifts out of this stuff, thinking that, okay, it's H13, it'll, you know, just set it off the side, it'll harden up all by its little lonesome, won't have to worry about it, right? And yeah, that was not the case. Was not the case.
I may have to run inside to get something for your mom, for the kids. There's something she needed. It's kind of urgent.
Okay, well, give me a second here. Go ahead and let's go over the anvil cam real quick, and then I'll take this heat, and then I'll let you go after we come back, okay?
Okay.
To the main cam.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, you have the anvil cam?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So now I've picked my top, I'm bringing it out. Again, wrought iron likes being at a high temp. And we'll come back to where I know I'm on my wrought iron, and I'm going to add in my little fuller mark here. And take this really nice and easy. I'm hitting this with a soft face hammer. For any of those that are worried, that is what I'm doing. Got that there. Dress that back a little more. What do y'all think about that? Looking good?
Yeah, it does. It really gives it that definitive shape.
Now dress out those little pucker marks that were created. All right. So there we have it on that end, and now the back end, we will have to forge on the horn to get that swoop into it. We'll have to get a little more swoop in it here to get that shape out of it.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's go back to the main camera.
All right.
I'll brush this real quick. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, you need to run real quick?
I will, and let me read you. Oh, sorry guys, I just moved that over. Let's see. There was Heavy Hammer Forge. She had missed your answer earlier on why this type of iron. I'll leave you on that.
Okay.
And I will be back.
All right. So this is the third. So this is the third round of answering that. Why this type of iron? The reason for this type of iron is because it would have been the traditional way of making hammers back, you know, before we had high quality modern tool steels. That's the reason for iron, using wrought iron. Second reason, I love wrought iron. I love working with wrought iron, and I like doing this type of work and doing stuff that's more challenging than just making out of maybe 1045 or 1075 steel, or a mono steel that I call it. That is the reason for this type of iron, or just doing iron in general. Hopefully that'll answer that question there. We're going to get it hot. I don't have Jessica to answer your questions, so if you want to hold your questions off, that's fine until I get closer here to heat. Or I may actually just pop over there real quick. We'll let this stay warm here, and I'll sit where she was at, and maybe I can answer some of you guys' questions while she's going here. So that'll stay warm and it'll get back up to warmth here. We're finally starting to get a good coked fire together, so that's important. Coke is one of the biggest important things to have in your fire here as a forge fuel if you are going to try to take and do forge welding. Build up a supply of coke before you ever get started with forge welding. That way you don't run out in the middle of the forge welding process and then have to do like we did earlier in the stream and wait 5-10 minutes for me to develop enough coke again that we could have some more fun at forge welding. So I'm going to go over here where Jessica was at real quick. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oi! Hey there, everyone! Ha ha! Alright, what do we got here? Yep, it will be 8 ounces. So, Corey Shire, let's see here. Yep, I'm using a mild steel hammer to strike with. It is a mild steel hammer that I'm striking my other hammer face with. Sometimes I don't do as good of a job, explaining that, only because I've explained it about, at least 900 times in my videos. Just about, but yeah. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right, she's back. See her?
I am.
See her over there?
Speedy.
All right, cool.
Hopefully speedy.
It's good to see people's thumbnails and just say, hey. Hello, everyone. All right. Hopefully this is going well. Heavy hammer forge. Is it easier to use gas or coal to forge weld? In my opinion, it's easier to use coal. That's in my opinion. Solely my opinion. Now I know some people would disagree with that. People who are real big fans of gas and they're all about gas forges and this and that. That's fine. You can be a huge fan of gas. It's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep at night. But in my opinion, coal is better for forge welding. It can create more intense and immense heat than what gas can. And so therefore, with wrought iron, if you try it with wrought iron is horrible to forge weld in a gas forge. It doesn't like it. It will, you can, but put it in a coal forge, it works so much better. So much better. So that's what I recommend for that. If you have gas, you have gas. That's what you got. There's a pun coming with that. That's a funny thing coming there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if you have all you have is a gas forge, that's what you got. Use what you got.
Alright, so what else do you still have to do on the hammer today?
I'm going to finish the shape of the hammer, and then we're going to call that it. So I'm going to forge out the swoop into it, and then we're going to call that it. And I just wanted to thank everybody for being a part of the stream tonight. So we're going to get this up to its final heat. We're going to take it to the horn, and we're going to kind of beat into that little. We're going to beat that little radius into it. Now, I used to have. Well, there it is. Hey, I can use that. I didn't even think about it. Well, drat. I already used the hammer as cooler. So I had this that I made in another video. Roy didn't even think about it. Looky there. Well, we're going to use it on this portion so we don't have to go to the horn. We're going to use this little drop-in Hardy cooler here. I've made another video. And we're going to forge this down a little bit. So.
Corey asked, you don't have the problem of waiting for coke to build if you use strictly charcoal, right?
If you use strictly charcoal, it's pretty much its own coke. Yes. Go to the anvil.
Okay.
You good?
Uh-huh.
Okay. We're going to come to the apex and hammer straight down and work out towards the tip. Get this lengthened out a little bit. And we're going to come up to that apex again. And we're going to hammer that down. And I'm going to come back with it, and I'm going to come on to that apex with the other side and hammer straight down. Now that I found that tool, that'll give us a little better shape that I like.
Mountain Good 12 says, what about oil burners?
Oil burners, they get really hot and I know nothing about them.
John McCann pointed out that you use a gas torch as well.
That I use?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Drayson69 said, and less O2 using coal or coke to keep a clean forging. And sorry, but I must go.
Yep. Sorry you have to go, but thank you for staying around to see this portion of it. Yeah, I am not beholden to a particular method, if you will, or a particular tool in the shop. Tools are meant to be used for what their name implies. They're a tool. They're there to help you get to an end result. So if time permits it, I will do everything by hand if I can, unless I'm lazy. Sometimes I'm just lazy, and I don't want to take and, you know, I don't want to light the coal forge, right? Like, I'm just lazy, and I just want to flip on and hit the barbecue igniter, and whoosh, there, I've got flame, right? Look at me, ain't I great? It's kind of like a gas grill versus a charcoal grill. I like the flavor of a charcoal grill, but a gas grill is so much nicer to light, and there's no maintenance, right? But they're both tools. They're meant to cook. They're meant to cook. Forges are meant to heat. Hammers are meant to beat, right? Power hammers are meant to draw out stock or overcome larger masses than what you could do physically by yourself. Presses are meant to squish. Welders are meant to weld. Plasma cutters are meant to cut, right? Bandsaws are meant to cut. Torch sets, you can get cutting torch sets. You know, die grinders, all sorts of different tools to make a cut. You can hot cut, you can cold cut, you can do all sorts of different stuff. Tools are meant to help you get to an end result. So whichever one is the most efficient for you, or whichever one is the most you're most comfortable with, that is the right tool for that job. If you are if you are uncomfortable with using a certain type of tool, or maybe you're not up on it, like say a coal forge or something, you haven't taken a class and you know you just don't really know a whole lot about it, then don't get a coal forge. You know, don't use the coal forge for forge welding. You're probably going to have a terrible time. You need to learn the basics in the coal forge first before you use it for forge welding. Do you see what I'm saying? Hopefully everybody understands that. So I'm not beholden to a specific tool. There is no magical miracle tools out there. They're just tools. They're meant to do a job. And anybody who sells you otherwise, it's their own personal opinion. Because, you know, there's people who, well, heck, there's one person that offered to send us palm leaves, palm stuff, which we need to get back with. It was,
yeah.
What was it, palm bark or something like that. I don't know what it was, I forget now. But off palm trees to forge in. You know, again, I don't know if it'll work, but I might give it a shot. Maybe it works great. Is it any better than coal? Probably not. But if it's what you got, use it, as long as it gets you to that end game. So. Alright, so let's get this final heat here. It's almost up to full heat. It likes to be really hot when you're doing this, so get it really, really hot. And we're going to go to that bigger fuller that's in the anvil. I'm almost there. I'll let you know, Jess, when I'm there.
Okay. Darren says, Roy, have you tried Norton blades for grinding yet? They are wonderful and last a long time.
Norton blades. I have not tried Norton blades. I'll give those a shot. I usually buy really cheap Harbor Freight consumables for grinder, for like grinding blades and things like that, but they eat up real quick. But then again, they're like a dime a dozen too, so I'm not too concerned with them usually. But good abrasives, yeah, I mean you can't beat a good abrasive disc that stays up with it for a long time. Alright, we're getting hot, Jess. Let's go over the anvil. You there?
Yep, we're there.
Okay. I'm coming out with that fuller mark down. Again, we're just trying to push this up into an apex that we can then... Jessica's freaking out over the bugs there.
One flew into my hair.
Oh no!
The June bug. Those are the worst.
Yeah, those are the worst. So all I'm doing is just dressing out the puffer or the side swell you get with that. And I'll have to address it a little more here. There we have it. You guys can see that there. We'll take one more heat on that, push that around a bit more, and we'll have that apex. Next week's live stream, we will actually punch and drift the actual tool here. We'll punch and drift it, and then we will let it normalize for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then we will harden and temper it on next week's live stream. Sound good?
Sure, sounds good. Heavy Hammer Forge says, don't you think you might get black lung using a coal forge though?
Nope, with proper ventilation, not happening. If you have poor ventilation, like in mines and things like that, that's where you get black lungs or silicosis of the lungs, I think it's called. I forget who it was that had said he was a miner. Anyways, somebody said, yes, you can get black lung from using coal, but yeah, ventilation's key. So I'm in a very open shop, and I've got a good forge hood pulling out all the ashes and smoke and stuff. And in general, you won't see me have my face this close to the full coal forge, huffing it. Don't huff it, guys. Don't huff forges.
Roger Charlie says, black lung is from unburnt coal dust.
Yep. I don't really think there's any danger of it here. Oh. There was a time when there was no safety. Really, no one knew what that was all about. And, you know, a whole shop could be filled with dust all day. And working in that, it was just part of the trade at that point in time. But now with ventilation and everything else, it's not really an issue. Not in my opinion, unless you're working in a poorly ventilated area. All right, go back to the anvil, Jess.
All right.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay, I got that forged in there. I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. Need to even up that fuller groove. There we go. This is just all kind of cleaning it up and squaring it up work here. This isn't a necessity, it's just something that I like to do to add the professional touch to it. You didn't come here to see a guy that's a hack. You came here to see a guy who knows what he's doing, huh? Mm-hmm. So I get this heated up. If you'll notice that this face, because of us fullering on one side, it's pointing out now. All you have to do is heat it up and just hit it back. Basically, this whole thing's kind of got a bit of an arch into it, a bit of a bow. Because of that fullering action, all you have to do is heat it up, stand it on in, and just hammer back on this end, and that'll straighten that out. There we go. I'll take this last heat, do that, finish planishing her up, and call that good.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're another 49 minutes in. We've meandered back up to around 46 people.
Wow. All right. Well, I've been going for 3 hours, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It takes what it takes. Mm-hmm. You can't rush what they call perfection, if you will, or you just can't rush work. It doesn't work for you. If you rush it, you'll be sorry.
Stephen Burson asks, what is a good scrap metal you recommend a beginner to use other than rebar, i.e. leaf spring, old tooling parts, etc.?
Scrap metal, if you're wanting high carbon steels, mainly I would stick with coil springs over leaf springs. Leaf springs tend to have a lot worse lives than coil springs do. I would stick more with, like I said, coil springs if I were you. On that, you can find scrap material. If you go down to your local scrap yard, you can find all sorts of scraps, bars, and just plain mild steel bars and things. Rebar is not a great material because a lot of the characteristics can be unknown. Because rebar is a structural grade material, they have different alloys and different things put in them for specific purposes in construction. So unless you know what those are, that can get kind of dicey on your forging. You may think you have something fairly low carbon, and then come to find out it had a little higher tensile strength than you thought, and you could barely beat it. So that's why people usually advise against rebar. Railroad spikes that have been obtained legally, you can work on those. That's kind of a common, although I don't recommend it. In fact, that's probably the last thing I'll recommend you to use, based upon the fact that railroad spikes force you into having to get a special pair of tongs to hold the head of the spike, and they're goofy, and you know there's not really a lot of material there to work with unless you just saw the head off completely and then use the 5/8 square shank. That's another source there. Once again, that have been obtained legally. I will throw that out there again. Legally. A lot of guys will say, yeah, I got a whole bucket load of railroad spikes, and they backed up to the train depot and, you know, loaded their trunk full. I had one guy actually try to give me a bucket full of spikes that he did that exact thing. Yeah, you never believe it. They had this shed, and it was just scad full of these these were brand new spikes. These were not old spikes that were yanked out of stuff. These were brand new spikes. I'm like, dude, nuh-uh, I don't want no part of that. I'm like, there's a good chance you got some guys in little black suits going to be finding you, you know. So I stayed away from that, steered clear of that type thing. Not worth it, not for forging. Let's go back to the handle.
All right.
And more questions, if you will.
Heavy Hammer Forge, not really a question, but just a statement. I changed my channel from Game Forge Gaming, the 16-year-old bladesmith, to this one.
To Hammer Forge, whatever?
Yeah.
Is that what it's saying? So he's saying that's he had a channel name, huh?
Yep.
His screen name has changed. Cool.
Yep. Darren says, I found a bucket full of huge Allen wrenches. I'm going to see what they do. They are from 1/2 inch to 1 3/4 inch.
Yeah, there's no telling on that. They could be good steel to work with for high carbon stuff. And then again, they could just be a low grade machinable quality steel. If they're a lower quality Allen wrench, they might even have some phosphor in them, good amount of phosphor, and maybe even lead in them, so be careful. Be careful on that. Anytime you're working with strange material that it's foreign to you, that you don't have a good handle on where it came from or why, you need to be very careful. Very, very careful. Like I said, that stuff earlier, that stuff that I was talking about that I thought was H13 because I got a little bit of it that was, and the rest of it turned out to be leaded. It all had lead in it. And you know, who wants to take in the vapors coming off of that had lead in them?
Yeah.
Right? So imagine me after just a few years of breathing that stuff in and thinking I had some good quality forging stock there, just to find out they had lead in them all those years. So again, be cautious on that. So there we have it.
Very nice shape.
Everybody see that?
Probably zoom it in just a
Yeah.
bit.
Yep. Zooming in there.
There we go.
Everybody see just fine?
Yeah.
I can't tell if it's in my eye. My glasses are
Yeah,
foggy.
it's in focus. It's just a little dark. There you go.
Okay, it's a
Light's
little
up
dark.
little.
Okay, let me see if I can. Hold on, everybody. Give me a second.
There we go. Yeah, that brings.
How's that?
Much better.
Can everybody see now a lot better?
Yep, that brightens it up a good bit.
So there you have it. There's the form. So, with that being said, that form being done there, now the last step in this will actually to be punching the hole. That'll be a little trickier to do because now we have this apex in here. It's not square, but it's completely doable. It's just a little bit of a balancing act. You know, you can't just like let it lay there. When you punch it from the back side, you have to kind of pick it up here a little bit, and then you got to redress some of your fullers and stuff. But there you have it. There's the fully forged welded in piece. Only took us 3 hours and some live stream issues and whatnot's going on there.
We made it through though.
Yeah, and we made it through a whole nother hour stream.
Yeah.
So what do you all think?
Corey Shire says nice. Mike G, great looking hammer, Roy. Graham Pepper looks good, Roy. Great work.
Good, good, good. I'm glad you all like it. So glad you all like it.
Darren says looks like a Pinewood Derby car.
It does kind of look like that, doesn't it? That would win the race, huh? Although it wouldn't be in regulation, pretty sure, weight-wise. So a few thoughts to go. So if you can't make it to the next live stream that we're going to be doing on this, I want to talk a little bit about wrought iron here for a second, and I actually want to do that up at the hood, hon. Let's do that real quick. I'm going to leave you guys with some final words and wisdom and nuggets of information, and hopefully this will help you. Let me find some chalk. Give me a second.
Adjust the camera in a bit.
I will go over this in the next live stream, so I wouldn't go real hard. I try to zoom it in, back ring. Just reach around. There you go. And then roll it over a little bit. See it there? Yeah, okay. All right, so here's my thing. I know my head's being clipped off a little bit, but we'll deal with it. So what you have to consider with wrought iron at all times is that you have a grain structure. So you have a wooded-like fiber structure that's all running like this, like grass, okay? On the end here, you have monosteel that's more like a pelleted type thing. That's all together. It's like all interlocking crystals and crystalline-like structure, okay? It's a crystalline structure instead. So you have this monosteel here, as where you have, again, you have wrought iron that has this fibrous texture, has a fibrous nature to it. When you drift, when you punch and drift this material, think of what would happen if you took a splitting wedge and you splitted it through a chunk of wood. What's going to happen there? If you took something, a shape, that was like a normal slitting punch would be, and you were to drive it straight through and flip it over and slit back the opposite direction, what would happen, huh?
Oh, it wants to keep splitting, wouldn't it?
It would want to split open like a piece of wood. And let me grab a towel here. I didn't think that one through. Let me grab a towel real quick. Give me a second. I'm really hoping everybody's enjoying this stream. I'm trying to put out a good bit of info
hey,
here.
You've had 51 people stick around, so.
Awesome, awesome. So what would happen if you punched this slit in here? A long cut like this. What's going to happen is here and here is going to continue to split to the ends till it meets the resistance of that monosteel. It's going to just crack and it's going to open up. It's going to look like you're blowing open the whole thing. It's going to want to pop open on you, like splitting a piece of wood. So that means our slitting punch, or our punch that we actually come down through the material, has got to be manufactured in such a way that it does not allow this to happen. So when you come down through this material, you want to come down through this material with something that is an oval shape. It needs to be an oval, because what happens with the oval is it severs off these grains at the end here. Okay, kind of like as if you chop through firewood. sideways, right? Not with the grain, but against the grain, right? Like when you carve something. I'm not a whittler, you know, but if you carve something and you go against the grain, right? Like, you know, you whittle it off that way, whereas if you go with the grain, you might tear it out. I hope that's a right analogy there. But this oval shape severs off that grain, and it doesn't allow it then to split and pop open on you. Someone out here is going to try it, and they're going to like, what was Roy saying about that? You're going to be referencing this video in this point in time at some point in time. I guarantee you will. Just try it, see what happens. So your hammer punch and your hammer drifts and everything else that you come through here has got to be different. It has to be designed different and dressed different. Keeping this in mind, let's go to the vertical approach. So that was looking down on top. Keeping this in mind, we don't want something that's a heavy wedge, because that wedge is going to act like a splitting wedge in wood, and it's going to pry apart those grain structures. We don't want that. We want to shape our punch to where it has more wedge to the front and to the back, and less wedge, or almost none, to the left and to the right. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's narrow in this direction, but it's wedged in the opposite direction. So it's pushing against the end grain of that wrought iron. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Darren says that makes sense. Never thought about it that way.
The punches and chisels and the tools that you do to drift are made differently. You have to make them differently to take and do that. Likewise, to drift open the hole to get a larger hole so we can put a hammer handle in it and then hammer it back to drift out that hole, you can't just come into it with a big old round punch like this. Can't do that. You have to upset the material. You have to hammer down in this direction. So you have to create a slot already. Okay, I'll draw this out. You have to create this slot already. So you got your hammer here, yada yada. We're looking at it from the top. You have to create your slot punched hole. And then you need a hammer from the top down to bulge out this material. Because what that does then is that conforms this wrought iron around this hole like so. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
Seems KJ Owen says seems it would work just as well for mild steel.
The other type tooling? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other type of tooling is fine. But we've gotten away from using wrought iron because it is a rarity, and so a lot of the modern ways of doing slitting punches and like, you know, slitters and drifts and stuff are not made for wrought iron anymore. They're made for the more modern quality steels. The stuff from wrought iron will work with the higher carbon steels or the modern steels of today, but not necessarily vice versa, like I'm explaining with this drift. To put this drift in here, you have to upset the hammer. We'll do that in the next live stream, and I'll show all this. So if you can be back here for the next live stream, and I'll show you what that, what that looks like. And I think just for all kicks and giggles, after we do the hardening and tempering and stuff, I will acid etch it. I will actually etch the hammer, and I'll do a little video on it on the channel and showcase everything I've been talking about so far, what's been happening. But if you do this, if you upset the material in this area, you bow this pattern. You bow this grain around here, almost creates a knot. Then you can shove this drift through there. Then you can shove the drift through there because you're not creating so much of a splitting action anymore. Because now the fibers are bent like this. They're no longer up like this, they're bent like this. They're flowing around that opening. So that will stop you from developing and I see this all the time in hammers, wrought iron hammers, when people try to make them. You'll see this beautiful hammer, everything else is dressed up nicely, right? The hammer's been drifted. We're looking down from on top, right? The hammer's been drifted, and it looks like a really pretty thing. You'll have this perfectly oval hole, like this, in it. It looks real nice. And then you'll have this teardrop effect, where the iron's trying to split open on you. And it's doing that because it wasn't upset in the heat. It wasn't upset first before you drift. So I'm just putting that out there for anybody who wants to follow along with this or wants to go attempt this week before next week's live stream. And maybe you're not going to make it to next week's live stream for whatever reason. You're in the know of what we're going to be doing next week.
They know. They've
Good to
got
go.
what's up.
Good to go? Did everybody find this stream helpful, enjoyable, entertaining? Maybe not entertaining, but at least helpful.
Manga 12 says, so that's all the explaining.
Yep, now you don't have to show up. There you go. Although there's a lot of information I'll pack into the next live stream. I'm sure you guys' brains are on overload.
Right?
I know mine is. You learn more by trying to teach than you ever do by yourself.
Right.
Just working in the craft. It's so easy for me to just do it without thinking about it. And when you're trying to explain it to somebody, you really have to go arduously throughout your mind and your memory banks and pull it all up to where it makes intelligible sense. And that just makes it stick out so much better. So much better in memory. All right, honey.
Yeah.
What do we know?
All right.
Comments.
Yep.
Last comments or questions before we go.
Couple comments. Braveskin says, indeed, thanks for streaming. You guys were great.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here.
KJ Owens, even though I was late, LOL. Justin Wells, heck to the yeah. Corey
Heck to
Shire,
the yeah.
yes.
Cool.
Manga 12, helpful, yes. Educational, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope to be, I'm not very entertaining, but I am helpful and educational. That's what I try to shoot for. So if I can get those two bases, I couldn't care less if you were entertained.
Mike G says, it was great. Jess and Roy, you all are such a blessing. Graham says, I'll watch the other half hour after you finish.
Good. Watch the other half hour, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Awesome. So thank you all so much for being a part of the stream. Thank you everyone once again who donated in Super Chat tonight in the stream. It really does help Jessica and I out. Continue on with our little mission here to help other smiths and help you guys grow your businesses and do all the teaching and things like that. There's a lot of neat stuff on the horizon, and we hope that that'll continue to grow. And you know, it is our subscribership. It's guys and gals out there like you that are making that possible. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts with that. You know, we really do. We're thankful for all 22,000 of you out there that have subscribed to this channel. Never would have thought it would get that big when I made that little Da Vinci cam hammer. I never thought in a million years I'd be doing YouTube right now. I mean, at one time, I barely knew how to log in to watch videos on YouTube, let alone post like we do. And be able to teach. And you know, I've really found my calling is what it is, to inspire that next generation, to uplift people, to tell you you can in your business. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in your development as a smith. You know, mine will come along the way because I'll go into all this cool stuff. I'll take classes and workshops and the stuff that interests me. And then I will take that information and I can put it on somewhere like YouTube for thousands and hundreds of thousands to see, so it doesn't get lost, you know, in the annals of time. You know, it's a pretty amazing thing. It's a pretty amazing thing. And we appreciate every last view, like, and share we get. I know a lot of channels will say that, and I'm sodding on here a little bit, probably too long, but who cares? It's late. I can do that. I've sweated enough for you all this evening. Right. There is a lot of channels out there that will say, you know, they appreciate you and they read you every one of your comments and this and that and stuff. And I think, you know, for the most part, they're honest and they do. Jessica and I really do. All 4,000 of those comments every month, we read each and every last one of them. we get around to, I don't know, probably 1,000 of them. We probably comment back to. It may not be yours. It may not be this month that you get a reply, but you know I reply to at least probably 20 or 30 of them a day.
Yeah.
I try, and and we get tons of emails. We get about.
I mean, all these people are catching on that are in the live stream because at least they know. You know, there's a higher chance.
Yeah, and we have about. Oh, I don't even want to start the line. It's probably 300 emails, probably a month, close to.
Yeah.
I bet probably 300 or 400 emails a month that we get from you guys, hearing your stories. One guy shared with us his wedding proposal. That was pretty awesome. You know, like I'm like, dude, like that's kind of a special moment. You know, I'm impressed that you want to share that with us, and yeah, a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of cool people. We're glad to have each and every last one of you, and we really do mean that. There's a few bad apples every now and then that come across the channel. Thank God there's not many, because I have zero tolerance, kind of zero tolerance policy. If you're first joining us here, basically, if you think that you can, if you're man enough to insult me online, I'm man enough to block you from ever being part of the channel again. And I had to do that to a guy today that decided he wanted to insult my faith and, you know, my prices that I have on my thing and talk about my humility. So, yeah, blocked him. He said, well, I have enough humility to block you. Goodbye. And that's what I did. I didn't get into it with him, and I know I'm sharing you, but I'm still gruntled about that. Trust me.
Gruntled. Disgruntled.
Yeah, gruntled. I'll just call it gruntled. It's beyond dis. It's just gruntled. So, yeah, no, we have a few bad apples, like I said, that pull in every now and then, but it's the great majority of you, of that 4,000 comments a month, there's maybe, if we're lucky, 100. Maybe a bad month, there's about 100 negative comments. So what do they matter?
Overwhelmingly positive.
Yep, overwhelmingly positive. Somebody said earlier that he believes that blacksmiths are one of the greatest communities to be a part of on the face of this earth. I'm partial to blacksmiths, so I'm going to say, yeah, that's true. I've never been a woodworker or anything else, so maybe they can be just as great. But I don't believe you'll find another craft that is as sharing as what blacksmiths usually are. And with our channel, we hope to, I would say, put the final nail in the coffin of sharing, which is about finances. A lot of guys have interest in doing it as business, and that has always been a taboo to ask anybody about their finances or ask anybody about their business tactics or what sells well or things like that. That's always been a taboo in blacksmithing, but we live on a big planet. And so I'm trying to put the final nail in that old coffin and get the word out there that yes, you can. I don't care if you're 15, if your parents will allow you, you can make yourself dandy income from blacksmithing, or you could be that 40, or you could be that 90-year-old man that just wants to put a little extra, you know, bingo money in the tank, right? Or you could be that 45-year-old dad or mom of, you know, 4 or 5 kids, and you're just looking to try to do something else in life. You know, you're not happy at your job. And that's why we do the business live streams. That's why we created the blacksmith cheat sheet, you know, to help you guys out with that. We put out all the PDFs and the documents that we do. Those, yeah, they help benefit us. They help do what we do, but those are put out there so this way they can help you do what you do. You know, you can support your own family. And Jessica can attest to this. So, and since we've got a lower audience right now, or, you know, or whatever, you guys are getting like the inside scoop. So perk up.
Yeah,
we have a lot of great things. Jessica has some e-courses coming out, don't you, on business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Those will be in the works too.
Yep. She's leaving it aloof right now because they got to come out in due time, and she's still working on them with everything else she's got to do. I also have some teaching DVDs that'll be coming out soon. I'll name drop on that. I have some teaching DVDs that'll be coming out very soon on very specific subjects. And of course, those will be for purchase, and you can add them to your home library. and they're troll free, so you won't get trolled by watching them or anything like that. Our channel's pretty troll free because I police it heavy.
Should that be on the label, like next to gluten free?
Yeah, gluten free. It's non-GMO. It's gluten free. It's troll free. It's all those frees, all the O's frees.
Justin Wells says bingo money, and you thought you weren't entertaining.
Dang, I wasn't entertaining. Well, there you go. Every now and then I say something pretty jazzy and funny, depending on the mood. So, but yeah. Anyways, I could go on all night. Again, we do appreciate each and every last one of you. When you do, you are heard. And if you don't think you're heard, just say something negative. You'll be heard real quick. You know, and I read every comment, and I do that not only for to keep up with the honorable thing, like I said I would, that I would read every last one of your comments, but I do that because I care enough about my people that are in our community having a safe time while they're on our channel. So that's why I police the comment section so heavy, because, you know, we have kids, we have 15-year-old kids, we have 13-year-old kids that watch this. Somebody sent us a picture earlier of their kid watching us, watching a live stream, and it was sitting in like a little bouncy chair or something, like, you know, a little young kid, you know. And so that's why we police comments, so we don't allow vulgarity and all these other good stuff on our channel. So you can feel safe to ask questions on our channel. There is no such thing as a stupid question. If we've answered it before, which chances are with 765 videos, I'll just point you to that link or to that video that'll answer your question in detail. So, or save it for a live stream and hit us up during a live stream.
Yep.
That's a great way of doing it. So, I think I've said enough. How everybody talking or?
Yeah, manga 12, but still a bit stiff and spicy, and a little spicy.
Yeah, still stiff and spicy. There you go, a little bit spicy. All right, well, we're going to end the stream. We're going to go get our kids tucked into bed. I'm going to get a shower, shut down the forge for the evening. Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure demonstrating for you this evening. A couple quick things. July, yes, July 13th.
14th and 15th.
14th and 15th. I will be up at RABA. I'll be the conference demonstrator up there. Right now, the plan is to take and hand forge a swedge block up there. It's going to be kind of a neat demo. We'll see how it goes. I'll be up there for 2 days during their conference. I'm really looking forward to meeting all the people up there at RABA. So check that out. Go to their website. I think it's rabablacksmiths.org or something like that, or .com.
Yeah.
I'm hypotheticalizing there. Just look them up. They're up in northeastern Ohio, I believe, the Cleveland area. So if you happen to be there around July 14th and 15th.
Yeah, Burton Century Village.
Burton Century Village is where I'll be doing that conference at. So a 2-day conference. Really looking forward to doing that. So that's one of the upcoming events. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in the works. Might be some classes coming up and some other things this fall. So keep your ears out for that you can come take classes with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty awesome. So once again, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to end the stream now. God bless each and every last one of you this weekend. Hope you have a great one, and we will catch you on Monday evening's live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you all for being here. God bless you. Say bye, Jess.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you all.
Good
We'll
night.
see ya. Good night.